So we had a pretty busy Saturday so far. Our local producer stockyard had a consignment bred ewe sale today. So we spent the day down there watching a lot of ewes and goats get sold. So about 2 weeks ago, a list of the consignments were posted online of what they were going to have at this sale. There were a lot of hair sheep, but they had like 4 to 5 wool sheep there. And there was 2 that really struck me and Rachel's interest. Had some information on their background of their breeding, where they were coming from and what these ewes were exposed to. So we went down there today. So we got down there about noon. The sale was starting at 1. There was a lot of hair sheep in this sale. That was probably what primarily most of the buyers were there for. So these wool sheep didn't really sell until probably the last quarter of sheep coming through the place. I'll have to look at the numbers, but I think there's about 200 ewes there and probably as many goats also. They had a lot of bred goats there. But, you know, we sat there. It's kind of interesting to sit there and instead of just looking at the market report every week, you're there being able to see what these bred ewes are bringing as they're walking around, just different looks of them. And, you know, basically their value based on what they look like. These 2 ewes, me and Rachel really liked. We sat down, looked through the paperwork. We kind of came up with a budget for them because this is fresh genetics. This is all kinds of genetics in these 2 ewes that we don't have any of here. You know, so that was one thing that we're really interested in. Another thing, they're very clean. They've been sheared. I was able to look up the Club Lamb farm where these ewes came from. I looked at other ewes that they had. I looked at their past lamb crops. I really liked the look of all that. And so we went in there and we ended up getting them for a little bit below what we were budgeting for. So we're pretty excited about that. But like I said, that sale started at 1 today. It's right around 5 o'clock right now. It'll be dark in about a half hour. We're over here at the bank barn. Ideally, what we want to do is put them in here right now into a little pen just to kind of do a quarantine period. So I really need to get them unloaded right now and try to beat nightfall. Oh, girls. Oh, girls, you got it. You got this. Oh. Hop up in here, girls. So as you can see, I'm already lost enough daylight. The ewes here, they're right there on the rack, getting plenty of feed or that hay in them. I don't know how long they're at the yards that they were brought down yesterday or the day before, but like I said, I just don't want them to overeat tonight, so that's why I'm not giving them any grain. Over here, I got their Gatorade set up. That's what we call that electrolyte water blue. Has kind of a sweet smell to it. They got plenty of room here in this pen. I'm not worried about them here. Actually, they seem really, I guess you'd say like handled. They don't seem too skittish or anything like that. They always are walking around with their heads up. I've been pretty impressed with them so far because it was super easy down at the yard for them to load. They loaded themselves down there right off the ramp, no big deal. And with the issues that we've had with some of our feeder lambs, we're right behind them trying to push them to get them on a ramp, 3 feet away from where they've been. Like I said, these 2 girls have loaded really easy and just been handled pretty easy so far today. So I'm just going to leave them alone for the night. We'll get back and check on them again tomorrow and talk a little bit more about them then. So we're back with our 2 new ewes. It's been a little over a week since we brought them home. I actually ended up getting sick. Really didn't do much. Just make sure everybody's okay for the last week. Didn't really put any extra effort into filming anything. But we're back checking on them tonight, checking in with them. I've been feeding them here in the evenings. It's just easier on me to do it that way. They seem to be adapting really well to the feed and the hay that we have. Neither of them had any loose stool, diarrhea, anything like that. So that's good. That's one thing we've been watching them for. We did notice that the one ewe developed an abscess there on her right-hand side shoulder. It swelled up. I went back in and looked at my pictures I took of them when we got them home in the video, and noticed that the wool on that shoulder was bumped out right in that area. So I'm assuming maybe she ran into a piece of wire or something like that. We get ewes that get that all the time. I caught her here at the feeder, and you can kind of see right in the area where it was. It looks like it's doing pretty good now. And that's one of the main reasons anytime we bring any stock home that has come from another farm, or like this is the first time we've purchased something from a used sale like this, where they've been around other sheep and other facilities that handle a wide variety of livestock and sheep every week. We put them over here, and it was nice because they've been in here by themselves, these two. We've been able to keep an eye on them. We've been able to walk around in their pen and, like I said, check and see what their stool looks like, making sure that they're just all healthy through and through, just because you're not really sure if they're stressed out, dehydrated, or whatever. I really am a big believer in that electrolyte powder that we use in our water. Everything seems to adapt to that really well. And, I said it has like that sweet smell to it. And so far, all the sheep that and lambs that we've brought home since we started using that, we've really reduced the amount of any of them having diarrhea within the first few days from stress of shipping them around. So that's been a really good benefit of ours, or benefit to us by using that. So this past summer and fall, we have called our ewe flock very heavily. The ewes that we were calling were a lot of our older, large frame Suffolks. When we first started out raising sheep, I wanted as big of a framed sheep as I could get. That's what I was going for. We bought that ram Bert that was just a monster ram that threw these giant lambs, and they grew great and they did get big. But one thing we were starting to get concerned about was the amount of room those big ewes take up in the pen and at the feeders. They take up a lot more room than a ewe lamb that's this size. For comparison, a couple of those ewes, even when I called them when they were on a strictly grass/hay diet, they weighed about 100 pounds more than each one of these ewes. And so in comparison to that, one of the ewes we had that we've kept, because she's always been able to perform, she's been able to keep her body condition score up based off feeding, off our average weight. But from the time that we purchased her to her current flock is almost a 75-pound difference in average weight per head. She eats about 2 more pounds of hay per day than each one of these ewes. So in comparison, these ewes get about 3 pounds of hay per day allotted to them, and she gets 5. And when you start looking at that over the course of a whole year and the amount of room that she takes up at the feeder, the amount of water that she drinks, basically that ewe is taking up a lot more resources and a lot more of our equity just to keep her in condition year round for basically having the same amount of lambs. We've had a lot of really good luck off of our crossbred lambs that we have right now about these Hamp cross lambs. And that's kind of why when we went with these two, saw they were going to be at that auction. Currently, all of our crossbred ewes that we have at our house, except for one, have been from 2 of the local producers that we have dealt with, that we've bought a lot of feeder lambs off of. We liked the way their lambs looked, their health, and the way they grew. So that's why we were purchasing ewes from them. And that was one of the big benefits of these 2 ewes, is because they come from a different part of Ohio, and they have a completely different genetic bloodline than the lambs and the ewes that we have kept back into our flock. They come out of ewes that were AI'd from rams out west. And so that was one thing we were just looking at, is just bringing in some fresh genetics into our flock, just adding some different, look to it. These ewes match up very closely in looks, frame size, to a lot of our crossbred ewes that we have over there right now. And so that's really nice. They're very uniform in that, because we've known how those ewes have performed in the past with about 150-pound average body weight throughout the year when they're not in gestation with lambs. And so, that's kind of why we went with these. We're excited to be able to get them and to try them out. So normally we'd be getting ready to load them up and get them over into the ewe pen there at the house, getting everybody ready for lambing. These guys were blood tested, and I believe it's February 22nd that they're due. But we decided against getting them over there right now. We're probably going to leave them here at the bank barn another couple weeks. And the reason for that being, I want to go ahead and clean out the barn there, get everything cleaned, get the pen reset up, get everything ready for lambing, because we should start lambing right around the beginning of the year. And I think that'd be less stressful on these ewes, because if I loaded them now, took them over there, put them in the pen with them, then I'd have to move them out of that pen to another pen while I clean the place out and then move them back in the pen again. And so I figured it'd just be a little bit less stress on them, since they've already moved around a little bit here recently, to just load them on the trailer, take them over and unload them in the fresh pen once everything's done. So that's what we decided to go ahead and do with that. But everything seems to be working out pretty good for them. They're eating and growing pretty well. They're not really the friendliest. They're not like a lot of the other ewes we have, but I don't know. They're just kind of standoffish. They let us check them out. They let us feed them, but they just don't really like, walk up to you, which is no problem with that. But we're hoping for the best. Next thing we got to do, though, is we're going to have to start getting that barn cleaned out, like I said, and get everything set up for lambing, because we're going to be lambing a little bit earlier than we always have in the past. And so that's something we got to work on here in the future. But excited to see how our purchase with these two ewes turned out for us. Well, that'll wrap up this video. Thanks for watching.